At the 6:30 a.m. security checkpoint in Chengdu, a heavy canvas bag moves onto the conveyor belt. On the monitor, a strange anomaly appears, a dense, glowing, fist-sized mass hidden inside an enamel bowl. The bag is opened to reveal a semi-transparent, irregular lump of raw salt. It was pulled from the Qarhan Salt Lake, an environment so saline that it feels more like a mine than a body of water. Lin Yan is transporting this salt, along with 3 weathered notebooks and the enamel bowl, from the city to a museum in the remote reaches of Qinghai. These are her grandfather's final effects. The bag is physically heavy, but her mother's connection to it is light. When she sent it, her only instructions were to count the items, not break the bowl, adding that the location her father spent 30 years in was a place that couldn't keep people anyway. This creates a strange contradiction. We have a man who dedicated 3 decades to a hostile wasteland, leaving behind a collection of relics that his own family views as little more than old luggage. To find the reality of that life, we have to follow the bag out of the city and into the high-altitude, arid desolation of Golmud. The Qarhan Salt Lake is not a body of blue water. It is a blinding white crystalline crust, a solid expanse where the distinction between the earth and the sky vanishes into a single white horizon. Understanding the items in the bag requires understanding this landscape. It is an environment of absolute physical hostility. Inside the bag are 3 cowhide notebooks. They contain the professional record of Lin Yan, starting in 1968 and continuing for 30 years. The notebooks document the mission, tracking chloride and managing evaporation. Every page follows a rigid format: date, temperature, and precise sodium chloride percentage. Across 3 decades, there are no personal thoughts, leaving no room for a narrative beyond the data. Only once in 30 years does a human sensation slip through. In the margin of a 1979 entry, next to a recorded temperature of 26 degrees, he wrote a single word: cold. He immediately scratched it out, as if correcting an error in his own objectivity. To survive 30 years on the salt flats, he redacted his own humanity, ensuring his internal state never interfered with the data. The next item is the enamel bowl. On the bottom, a few faded characters suggest it belonged to the Chinese Academy of Sciences, though the porcelain is ground down from years of use. This physical wear mirrors the physical cost paid by the researchers. On the salt flats, the greatest danger to the body is salt blindness or photokeratitis. The mechanism is simple and brutal. The white, crystalline surface of the lake acts as a mirror. It reflects high-altitude UV radiation directly into the eyes of the workers, burning the surface of the cornea. Lin Yan appears in archival photos wearing dark protective glasses. These were a requirement of the job, though they also served to hide the eyes of men who had spent their lives staring into the glare. The environment did more than consume their time. It physically blinded them to anything beyond the immediate work of the salt pans. On the sleeper train to Golmud, Lin Yan pulls items from the bag. The compartment is tight, filled with the sounds of other travelers. She finds a side pocket filled with dozens of cowhide envelopes. They are all addressed to her grandmother, Ru Yun, but they were never mailed. Each envelope is completely empty. There are no letters inside, only the brittle paper shells of messages that were never written. Tucked between the notebooks, she finds another unsent item, a bus ticket from the 1980s, bought for his daughter's trip. He kept the ticket, but never gave it to her. A fragment found in his notes contains a single, unfinished sentence. "Sometimes I feel the lake is too big." The geography of the Salt Lake was so vast and so empty that it seems to have desiccated his ability to communicate, leaving behind only the evidence of his silence. In Golmud, a museum researcher accepts the bag. He flips through the notebooks, logs the bowl and the salt, and issues a standard receipt. The canvas bag is suddenly light. The physical weight is gone, but the records remain. 30 years of a man's life reduced to a series of data points in a museum archive. Lin Yan travels out to the edge of the Qarhan Salt Lake to stand where her grandfather stood. The salt lake preserves everything it touches. Wood and metal are kept from rotting by the salinity, but the cost of that preservation is the total removal of moisture and warmth. The grandfather's legacy mirrors the lake itself. His data and his relics are perfectly preserved for the record, but they have been drained of their human warmth. Standing on the silent salt flats, Lin Yan's phone vibrates. A work notification appears on the screen, followed by a stream of received messages from her colleagues. The immediate digital connectivity of the present stands in total contrast to the notebooks in the museum. The grandfather's 30 years of isolation provided the raw data that now sits at the foundation of this modern industry. She tastes the salt dust left on her palm. It is blunt and harsh, the exact flavor her grandfather knew every day for 30 years. He once told her that the entire Salt Lake is just that one tiny transparent crystal, repeated across the horizon until it reaches the sky.